Alright, we're here at the back pond and our tree's growing really nice. I'm going to work with some of the trees today. I thought I'd show you what I'm doing, what I'm thinking. We're going to trim back this peach tree first. And no, I'm not going to wait until it's dormant because I'm going to make clones. You got to have green foliage when you make clones so that the roots and the leaves will work together as the roots grow. You can't just stick a piece of a tree in dormancy and expect it to become a clone. Now this tree is kind of interesting. It actually, the top of it died, and this part here, this growth that's growing up, we want to keep that, but it got way too bushy, covering everything up around here. Now, unfortunately, all this is going to have to go because you have terminal and lateral growth, and we are not growing up. We're only growing out on this whole half of this tree. This other half is our part that is going up, and you'll see that better as soon as I cut this off. So you really have to think about what you want the tree to do when it's older, when you trim it when it's younger. You can dramatically affect how it looks when it's older. So I'm going to cut this off. Now I got to trim all this off too, but that's going to really open up this flower garden. Now, look at all this growth. Let's go ahead and come over here. I'll tell you how to turn these into clones. Well, first off, you need a bucket of water. And I'll elaborate on that in a little bit. When you cut, you want to use the sharpest things you have. You want to cut at an angle. You want to cut as quick as you can. Put it right in the water. This is a lot of growth on this. Sometimes cutting this stimulates it to heal, and it'll stimulate root growth to trim this back. But I'm not going to trim this. I want that to be my tree. Alright, and I'm going to do that to all this. Don't need to bore you with that. Let's look at another tree over here. Alright, on this mulberry tree, we got a pretty nice looking tree here. We don't need this at the bottom though. So we're going to pull that off. There's some small ones under here that I could clip off. But for clones, you don't want small clones, you don't want big clones, you want medium clones. That'd be a little small. These would be a little small. So I'm going to leave those on the tree. I got this big one here. And I might get those next year. But let's go ahead and I already cut it here, but I'm going to cut it here to have a fresh cut when I stick it in the water. Let's see, what other trees we got around here? Alright, on this willow tree, I have this part of the tree that's growing over into this mulberries territory here. So if I cut this now, this is going to become my tree. And so that's going to grow up into this space. And so you kind of got to think about what you want. This is sticking way out over here. That's not so bad because there's nothing there. But this one's sticking out into the mulberries territory. That won't do. So there we go. That neatened up that willow. We're going to talk more about willow in a little bit. And here's this lilac. This is just sort of sticking out here in the path. That's probably not going to make it long term. So anything that's just eventually going to grow into a path or make a problem in the future, make a clone, make a new tree, put it where you want it. Alright, we got this gooseberry bush, and I want some more, so just all these at the bottom that are just hanging out, I'm going to cut them. make some new gooseberry bushes. So trimming up around the bottom is also good because it will keep pests and insects. They can get up onto the plants a lot easier if they're all hanging down on the ground. So we want this to be all nice and trimmed up. That's probably too small for a clone. But I'm just trimming up. That might make a clone. There. But now this is all nice and trimmed up around this bush. It'll help a little bit with parasites. Alright, moving along. Here's another one that's put a lot of growth on the one side of this tree that if it continues to grow, this is just going to grow over my flower garden. So I'm going to choose at this Y to go with this tree. And we're going to lose a big chunk of this tree. You might think, oh, bummer, but we just got it out of the way of this daylily, out of the way of this columbine, and it stopped shading all the wild geranium. And look at all of these clones. Nice, probably half a dozen nice clones that I can make of this peach tree. Now, this might not make a peach tree. This is grown from a seed. It depends on what the rootstock was that they grafted the peach trees on originally. So, you know, I'm going to put these on the border to create shade. And so I really don't care if this was, you know, some sort of a grafted on, not true peach tree when it fruits. Doesn't matter to me. But that's something to think about. And, you know, I'm making these clones from the top part of the tree, but this came from the seed of the peach with a different rootstock. So you never know. Something to think about. But I'm going to go cut this up and put it in some water. Alright, here's a spot where this died, and so it made a Y. You wouldn't want to cut underneath that because this will make a weird tree. So what you're looking for is a clone that's just one solid stalk too. And like I was saying, don't make them small, like under a foot. Don't make them longer than 2 feet. They won't do as well. Once you cut this, quicken it at an angle. Strip off the leaves at the bottom, and these nodes will be where the roots will grow out of. We also don't want a lot of dead leaves or decaying material in here because it'll stagnate the water. Cool, let me keep filling this up and then I'll show you the last step. Alright, on this Chickasaw plum tree, I'm going to cut off this dead part. Now, yeah, it's best to work with a tree in dormancy. So you'd want to prune a tree, you know, after all the leaves fall off and it's going dormant. But it doesn't matter if this whole part is dead. You can go ahead and trim that off. It won't hurt anything. That part's dead. So I like to do that now because then I get to see the tree all nicely trimmed and looking nice. I didn't want to cut this earlier in the season because I wasn't sure it was dead. Well, now we're in September. This didn't do anything all summer. This part's dead. So, yeah, I cut off the dead parts and cut the clones before dormancy. But if you're going to dig up trees, like you get a lot of little trees around a tree and you want to dig them up, you want to wait until those are in dormancy, though. Alright, I'm going to cut this piece off. We'll go on to the next thing. Alright, I had planned ahead a while back and I started these cuttings. We had a few of them die, but a good handful of them did not. And you can see that they're rooting. Now these are willow. And when the willow trees root, they put off a rooting hormone. So that's why I got these already started. So I'm going to have these rooting willow starts, clones, in with what I just cut, and that will help stimulate everything to start growing roots. So there's a little trick for you. The other thing that's important, I would put an aerator in your water so your water doesn't get stagnant in case you forget to add some more water like every other day, which I did, which is why some of these died. But I got enough to make all this take off. The water will also have some hormone in it, and so I'm going to put half this water in there and then fill them both up. Or, you know, this one's already full, but I'm going to pour half the water in there. So there's a few tricks and tips for you for messing with trees at the end of the season.